Welcome to Book Juice. Welcome back to Book Juice, episode 5, the podcast where we squeeze writers, publishers, and people in the book world for the good stuff and leave the pits behind. I am your host, Louis Urbanowski. This is also your host, MJ Perkins and Ander Roy. As a fledgling indie author, I watched Craig Scoular's post light up my feed like the briefcase opening in Pulp Fiction. He wrote the entire Unhinged Triology, Unhinged, Fate Fell Short, and Not Midnight Yet, then followed it with the standalone 49 Things to Do with Dad Before He Dies. 4 books inside a year, over 3,000 copies sold, and Unhinged breaking into Amazon's top 500 and earning bestseller status. And all done with less than 500 followers on Instagram. I hear you say, how does he do it? He's also a full-time teacher and host of the Unhinged podcast. Book Juice had to stick a straw into this man's brain and get the pulp out. Craig Scoular, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
That's all right, mate. Welcome. That was fun to put together. The stats speak for themselves. I'd like to just maybe get your take on, wow, people say overnight success. I presume it's not been an overnight success for you. How did you get here and how did it happen?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of, I suppose success is all relative for a start. I would say, I think sometimes when you can see people's numbers or things, it's all relative to where you are, I suppose, in your journey and things like that. But it wasn't really an overnight success, I don't think, and because when I released the first book back in September 2024, kind of on a whim. I'd only really done it more just to scratch an itch. I wasn't like, I'm going to be an author or I'm going to write a book or a series of books. It was more just, I'll just play about with, kind of a few ideas, and then it kind of just happened all of a sudden. I wrote the book in 3 weeks, and within about 2 weeks I'd released it, which was an awful idea, but there you go. And it was out there, and then, like you say, like you were talking about in the intro in terms of social media, I'm awful at promoting stuff. I'm just terrible. So I kind of just thought, I like writing, so I just kept writing, to be honest with you. And it picked up a wee bit of traction. So it was getting, I think, up until maybe about April this year, I was probably sitting at like, I think it was maybe something like maybe 1,000 copies sold, or slightly less than that, and maybe about 600,000 page reads. So it was still okay. It was still fine. But it really increased from about April, May onwards. So really in that sort of 3-month period or 4-month period, I've done like about another 3 million page reads, and then probably, I don't know, I don't really keep I only do it month to month. I don't keep a huge track, but I think it's sitting, I think since then I'm sitting at about another, probably talked about another 3,500-4,000 sales. It's maybe more than that, I don't know. But so in a way it was kind of not an overnight success, and then it kind of was, so I don't know, like it's kind of in between the two, I guess.
Go MJ.
Alright. If for someone who says he's not good at marketing, how on earth did that happen?
Yeah.
What steps did you take? I assume you did not just put this on Amazon and then off it went on its own. Did you buy ads? Did you work with a publicist? How did you do that?
No, I've not. I just work completely on my own. I don't work with anyone at all. No, I did just put it on Amazon, and then it just kind of it trundled along nicely, and I was quite happy with that. It was doing, the stories were going out there, and I suppose when you've got like a series, if you can hook people on the first one, it kind of translates into like a second and then the third one. So I suppose I got a bit of that. I think a wee kind of small following of people, and then I played about with things like Amazon ads, but very, very, very small scale. A few pounds really, and realised it was far too complicated to spend any of my hard-earned cash on. So that first sort of 19 months was probably just mainly made up of writing all the time. Just like, because I found that I quite enjoyed doing that, and I wasn't particularly, and I'm still not. I really do mean this. Hence why you can see my Instagram so poor in terms of trying to get followers and stuff. I'm not really that interested in. I'm not that bothered about loads of sales. I really don't. It's not. I don't think about it all the time, you know. So I never really kind of. But I was quite happy with it. And then it was only someone had said to me, "You should put something on Facebook. Maybe try like a Facebook advert because actually they're pretty. They're pretty good." So I did a wee course with Leslie, and she helped me quite a wee bit in terms of just the mechanics behind the curtain, if you will, to see how it all works. And then just because I'm a bit of a stat geek, I got quite into the that part of it, and I kind of just took off from there. You know, like I just put on one advert. Didn't really love it, and then I decided to go with. I thought, right, okay, how do you stop the scroll? How do you stop people at your book? And I come up with a tagline, Bridget Jones, but she's Scottish and a man.
Yeah.
Type thing. And
That works.
Get him.
and that's sort of kind of, I think that kind of helped a bit. So the Facebook ad helped, and then I don't know. I think what happens is you tend to. I think Amazon rewards you for sending, like traffic towards its site, and then an algorithm kicks in. I don't know. I mean, I know very little about all that stuff, but I think that's kind of what happens. So, and then you get word of mouth. You get people posting and saying, "Oh, I've told all my friends," and blah 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 blah. So I guess that's it. Like that. I would honestly love to tell you there was more to it than that. Like I really wish I could say, yeah, I did these 50 things, and but. That was it. It was really just that one ad, and I've just kind of kept really running. I mean, I've actually kind of wound it down because I found that winding it down, the algorithm's really kicked in now, and Amazon's really just promoting it kind of naturally now. So my ad spend's like, it was never big, but I mean it's down. It's pretty minuscule now. So and your return on your ad spend goes up. So how long that'll last, who knows? But there is no. You guys, I've seen all you guys on Instagram. You guys are amazing and blow me out the water on that stuff. I couldn't compete with that. But
I'll swap, mate. I'll swap. You can have all that crap, and I'll have.
we'll take the sales. Yeah.
I am trying to learn because I do see it. There is a big benefit. I was watching. I was looking at somebody on Instagram, Jade, who had her book out. A book launch last night, and it's fantastic. Like the work that she's put into like the book launch and the building up the following and all that. It's really impressive. I just don't get it. I don't understand enough, and I don't know. I always think time doing that. I just like spend writing, and like I say, it depends what your goal is. Like I'm not that big in pushing the sales, so if it happens, it happens.
Well, and I think having a killer cover helps a lot too.
Yeah.
Very eye-catching. Did you design that, or did you hire someone to do that?
No, I designed that. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
So, well, I say that my friend I was talking about was a professor of psychology. We did a kind of call. He was in the car waiting for his boy finishing 5-a-sides, and he's like, "We'll do a Zoom call and or a WhatsApp call or something. I can't remember." And we kind of played about with ideas, and I was telling him, and he was messing about with it. So we kind of, I suppose that one was quite collaborative. And then because I'm only now knowing how to work AI. I didn't really know how to work it, so he was kind of working it for me, and I was giving him instructions. And then I did all our covers myself, and all the titles myself, and the taglines myself, But so I suppose it's just like you get a wee bit of inspiration sometimes, don't you? And you just go with it. But that's part of the battle, isn't it? Is getting something that's going to catch people's attention.
So, I mean, reading between the lines here, I mean, good pun that, but reading between the lines, it would suggest to me that your word of mouth is crazy, right? That people are reading the stories and they're going, yep, I get that. Also, I mean, I've skimmed through the first 5 chapters of one of the books. I wouldn't say, and I mean this in a good way, that you have like a genre. You're sort of hitting a lot of things there, right? There's a bit of satire, a bit of comedy, a bit of romance, so it doesn't pigeonhole into one thing, so people will pull different elements out of it. So if you've achieved all of that, and then you're right, Amazon does like books that sell. They're not evil. Like if a book starts selling, they're going to push the shit out of it. Yeah. So that would suggest to me that you have just crazy retention, crazy traction. And when someone opens your book on Kindle, I mean, how many did you say? It's like 3 million? Did you say something ridiculous?
I checked at the start of the week. I think it's like 3.5 million.
That's crazy. I mean, you shouldn't say that. That's
awesome.
You can take the amount of pages in your book, right, and you can work out how many full books that is. That's crazy. But yeah, so that's
300 million pages read.
Yeah, we'll put that on.
One Scottish.
How to get 3 million page reads? It's just him going, I don't know.
I mean, that would be.
That's the trailer.
Yeah,
a series definitely helps because like, so I worked out, so my retention rate from book 1 to 2 is about 43% or something, 44%. And I'm always kind of hoping that might keep nudging up because, you know, not everybody reads book 1, 2, 3 in order. People have got TBRs, you know, to get through and stuff. But it sits with that. And the retention, but the great thing, the retention from book 2 to 3 is essentially 100%. I mean, they are exactly, the figures are essentially exactly the same, you know. Like, so the page reads for 2 and 3 are almost identical, as are the orders. So, like, a series does help, you know, like, because once you've hooked people into the characters, then they kind of, well, you know yourself as a reader, you kind of just want to see how it ends. Even if it's not the greatest book you've ever read, you're invested by a certain point in the story. So that definitely helps the pages. And then, of course, you push people onto your standalone book because they finish the trilogy, and if they've quite enjoyed your work, then they'll check out your other work as well. So I suppose it's all been a kind of it kind of rolls into each other, doesn't it? And Amazon then pushes it because they're thinking, well, actually, people are reading the first one, and we're going to get a lot of people buying and reading the second and the third one as well.
So I've got a quote here from it. It's on chapter 5, and it's the reason I mentioned about the genre stuff. Fuck off, Heather. You get the same stuff for half price out of Tesco next to the cinema. They're rip-off bastards in here. Now, that is something any British person, English person, Scottish person, whatever, who goes to the cinema knows about. I went the other day to see Spider-Man, and it was like £4.30 for a bottle of water. So I read that, and I was like, oh yeah, so this guy lived experience. So that leads me on to the question, what influence is this writing? I get the impression that Alfie in the trilogy is it you, based on you, or is it sort of approximation of you?
Not Alfie. Like, I'm nothing like Alfie. Like, I'm really nothing like Alfie. But it's based on, I suppose, his experience is the same as my experience in the sense that, you know, found himself online dating at an age that you probably don't think.
Yeah.
When he was online dating. So I guess I can identify with Alfie in that sense, you know, and I guess that's where it started. But I suppose I'm influenced. I suppose I'm influenced by really two things. I think, you know, like, probably one that I'm influenced by people. You know, like, just people. Like, I've always been, since I've been a wee boy, I've always been like a bit of a sponge for people and can read people quite well, and you know, and people fascinate me. You know, all sorts of people fascinate me, all different walks of life. Like, I've always been a bit of a, you know, obsessive about the characters that you meet in society. So I guess, like, I've always taken in all those kind of, you know, people who are funny, people who are sarcastic, people, all different personality traits I've had, and so I guess I'm influenced by that. And I wanted to make my characters feel real. That was always a thing and I think, like, one of the things I always love is when people leave reviews or they email me and say, like, you know, they're really relatable, or you get some people who go, I'm bereft, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do without, you know, reading about these characters, and you think that's kind of what I was aiming for, was that, like, that relatability. So I guess I'm influenced by that, and then I'm influenced by life, you know, like, I'm just influenced by life. I don't have the world's greatest imagination. Like, I find it hard to imagine things that aren't real, you know, like people who write wonderful fantasies and stuff like that. I'm always in awe. I'm like, where do you even begin to think about that stuff? But so I couldn't do that. But so I'm influenced by life, like you were talking about that part about the cinema, you know, like, I suppose that everything I've done is just infused by life, you know, whether it's small little things, observations like that, or big things like deaths, grief, you know, all those things. And maybe the last thing I'm influenced by, probably, and maybe the most thing actually, when you bring all those things together, is just my own feelings.
Yes.
I always just try and write, not how I'm feeling that day, but just the feelings that I have. I try and reach in and remember what it was like to grieve or feel guilty, or you know, like, just any of the feelings, and I try and always bring that to the surface, which can make writing quite an emotional experience at times, you know. but that, I guess that's where my influences have probably come from.
Great answer. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's when you're sobbing alone at home to your own book is always quite an experience.
We've all done it. We've all done it.
On that note, I was wondering where were you during those 3 weeks when you were writing that book? I mean, 3 weeks is quite an intense period of time to be able to write a book. Like, what did that look like for you? Where was it? How does that come about? Are you on like a holiday?
So I'd come off a holiday and like I've been asked this a few times at book clubs and stuff, and do you know what? The further you get away from it, you worry you end up with the wrong memory. You just strain from the wrong memory. So like I'm now, my answer is now I'm not 100% sure anymore because I've told this story so often I'm not sure what's real and what's not. But I do remember coming off a holiday, and I do remember reading a couple of books, and I was kind of like I'm not reading about people that I know, you know, like I'm not reading about things that I can relate to as much as what I want. And I thought, well, I'll try it. And now, given I hadn't written a creative word since I'd left school, you know, I'm a politics teacher, I'm not an English teacher. And I just came home and I just started, well, actually what happened was I started one Thursday afternoon and I wrote a few lines and I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this, and closed my laptop. And the next day I was like, no, give it a wee shot. And I tried it, and essentially I just started writing, and very, very quickly I had like 10,000 words, and then I had 20,000 words, and you know, and I always remember one, and in terms of, I always remember one night I was sitting writing one particular character that comes into the book, and it was maybe about 60% of the way through, 65%, and I always remember finishing that little chapter and thinking, I think I could finish this, you know, like I might actually get to the end of this. So it kind of happened. I really just did it. So it was at the end of the holidays and the start of the school term. But I was so excited. I was just getting getting home from work, doing what I needed to do, and then just sitting until like really late at night, like writing the story, writing every single night. Lots of weekend writing for the 3 weekends that I'd done it, and then it was a Friday night, a bit like tonight, and I got to like 10:30 at night. And I wrote the last few words in the epilogue, and I was like, "It's done." I actually can't believe that's it done. And there was no rhyme or there was no process to it. I was just so enthused by the story that I just kept coming back to it. But I kind of do that with all the books. Once I get into it, I see the whole story coming out quite quickly, and I can't stop myself, you know.
Craig, how many words do you have in the first book in the series?
It's 106,000 words in the first book.
So out of 106,000, 81 of those words is Christmas. And as a Christmas enthusiast, I was wondering how Christmas, why that appears so often in your story. There's a few different instances you talk about. It's a Wonderful Life, right? And bringing in those traditions. So like, how did that factor in? Why did you decide to include that?
I think, well, first of all, It's a Wonderful Life is like my favourite film of all time. So, I go every year, a bit like the character in the book, I go to the local film theatre and I get the same seat, do the same thing, and watch it every year. I've watched it every year for as long as I can remember. So I guess that's where that came from. But I think Christmas, my books are really about friendship and family. I mean, throughout that, there's a lot of themes that Louis picked up on. You know, there is. You know, I don't think there is a genre as such that what makes it a hard sell sometimes, I guess. Which is, it's not really like, is it a rom-com? You're like, it is in parts, but other parts it's not really. But Christmas, I suppose, is like, well, that's really the epitome of the friendship and family time of year, isn't it? You know, that's the part of this time of year where that really, I think you maybe think about that a little bit more. So perhaps there was something in that. In terms of practically, the book is about. For me, I mean, well, it's always about readers to decide what a book's about. It's not for me, right? I only tell you what I think it's about. Readers can decide what it's about. But for me, it's a book that hopefully is about hanging on to hope, you know? And I guess Christmas is a time as well, and in the new year, where maybe you feel that more than ever, or you don't, you know, maybe you don't. Maybe it's quite an oppressive time of year where you don't feel maybe hopeful for what's around the corner. But the books for me is about a guy who's essentially trying to hang on to some shred of things that might be better at some point. And perhaps at Christmas time you're reflecting on those things maybe more. But I do like Christmas myself, so maybe that's part of it.
Love that.
Also.
Very good. Yeah, Christmas is like a mirror, isn't it? Like you say, if you're feeling down, it's going to just show that back at you. And if you're feeling good.
5,000 words a day, by the way.
Yeah,
5,000 words a
that's
day.
sending me, to be honest. That's a good segue then. You're a teacher, politics teacher, which is very cool. I'd like to talk to you about that. You're a dad. You're a writer. How do you do all that? How do you balance it? What's an average day look like? Are you writing right now, for instance?
Yeah. So, do you know? And I don't ever really think about balancing it, to be honest with you. You know, like my priorities are being a dad, like and time for my daughter. Like I've never ever compromised on that. Obviously, like she doesn't live with me full time. She's here part of the week, and she's about to stay with her mum the rest of the time. So, but I do, you know, that time's really precious to me. And so that's my most important thing. And I love teaching. Like teaching's just the best thing. So I love going into school and doing some teaching. So I guess I've always just kind of, my writing always fits around that, and I love writing as well, but I always fit them around, my job is my priority, that's what pays my, really, for just now anyway, pays my bills, and my daughter's my daughter, you know, so like they're my priorities, and then I fit my writing round about it. But in terms of like my schedule, I usually just write at night, see, honestly, once I've done like my work for school, I'm ready for the next day, had my dinner, I've just kind of taken over as my hobby, you know. Like I don't know, it's hard to explain it. It's just taken over. Maybe things that I used to do instead. Like I used to play like a wee bit of Xbox and waste my nights away sitting playing Xbox, and I've not touched my Xbox since I started writing.
love
You
it,
know,
right?
because
Yeah, you love
it just
writing.
became my hobby. So people say, "How do you do it?" And it's like, well, if you spent 5 hours playing, I don't know, an Xbox game, I can write a lot in 5 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess it's just what you do. And at the weekends, I usually get up quite sharp and start doing that. And yeah, I've written my 5th book, but I'm kind of like playing about with that because it's a bit different from other books. So I'm just kind of sifting through that a little bit just now. So I was doing a wee bit of work on that this afternoon. But yeah, I never really think about it as it says balancing it. I just see it as my job, my daughter, my hobby, and I think we've all got them, haven't we? We've all got families, we've all got jobs, and we've all got hobbies, and that's just the way I see it.
What's
love that.
What's your 5th book about? Why is it different?
So it's well, I guess I've kind of it's different and it's not different. It's still like I'm quite obsessed with people. Like as I said earlier on, I like writing about people and infusing people that I've met in my life into different characters. So it is kind of character driven still, but essentially it's about kind of like people in a house who, well, yeah, playing a game, I suppose, but it's not really. And they have they've got to. How do I explain this without giving too much away?
Come on, Craig, it's a pitch. Get
They
your
have it. I
pitch
know.
together.
I'm not even listening. I'm not even anywhere near the pitch idea yet. I'm still trying to figure out parts of the plot. But it's different. I suppose what I'll say is it's different in the sense that my other books aren't really plot driven. They're definitely driven by what happens to the characters. This one's still got really cool characters, but it's definitely driven a bit more by the plot. So I'm kind of a wee bit. I've always been quite interested as a politics teacher, criminology teacher. I've always been really interested in justice and what justice means to different people. So this book essentially is about, I guess, people who are either looking for or running from justice and how that would look. So I feel like I'm nowhere near polishing the pitch yet because I'm still trying to figure some stuff out. But it's different in the sense that it's plots, and I'm looking back over and thinking, oh, that doesn't make sense because of that.
Yes.
Whereas in my other books, that never happened because you're just writing characters' lives. You're not really thinking about plots, you know.
So it's like the
Justice
Scottish
could just be a
equal-
Tesco meal deal.
It's
It's kind of like, I suppose the way I'm thinking about it is to me it's a bit like, you know, Traitors meets Big Brother meets Squid Game.
Ooh.
Oh, I was going to go Scottish Equalizer with like a Scottish.
No, it's setting it out. It's very Big Brothery in the sense
Sounds
that
good.
it's like it's set over 5 days, and there is a threat of murder and death hanging over folk, which I've never really done before. So do you know, it's one of the ones I'm writing. I'm absolutely no idea if I'll ever release it. Like it's just I did write it just to think because. Like I said earlier on, it's genuinely, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, it's genuinely a hobby. So, like, I know I can write those sorts of books, and I could easily go and write a 4th book in you know, of the trilogy and add to it in the 5th book. and people email me all the time saying, please do a fourth one, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to. I've told that story, you know. Yes, I might sell.
What a position to be in. Holy moly.
You know, you could sell X amount, but it's just a hobby, you know. So I wanted to try a different, like a proper genre book type thing, you know, maybe a psychological thriller. I wanted to try something to see, could I do that? And if I can, I'll release it. And if it gets to the end and it's crap, at least
Craig,
I've done it and had fun doing it, you know.
You are so cool. I
love it.
I am the least cool author in the world. Everything that you've been like, whatever. It's just this. I'm
He
like,
doesn't talk like a Londoner, mate. You
boring.
can't do my accent for him.
I can't do. Oh, can't be asked to look at the statistics. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm still working on my accent. But everything that you're just like rolling off and saying, oh yeah. I'm just doing it because I love it. No, I'm not obsessing over the numbers. Oh, I didn't pour $1 million into marketing. Maybe this is the secret. It's just to be cool.
Like, I think it's so,
because I'm not.
It's all. I just think the whole thing. I work in a bubble. You know, I see what people do online because I follow people back, and like I said, it's always impressive to see what people do, but. You just got to like walk your own path and do your own thing and what works for you, you know, like, and everyone's got their own, like, everyone will have their own goals, and some people's goal will be to get picked up by a publisher and you know, and do all that stuff, and you know, like, and I'm not saying if that didn't happen to me, it'd be great, of course it would, it'd be lovely to have the stories read by more people, of course it would, but I never think about it, I never go to sleep thinking about it, I don't worry about it, and if the book stops selling like tomorrow, like I've got a great job, I've got a great family, you know, like I'm pretty well off with that stuff. So if I don't have any more, you know, sales in books, then do you know what? I'll keep writing because I enjoy the stories and that's the way it is. But everyone's different. Like I'm not saying that's the way to be. It's just I've always viewed it as, I always say I'm not an author. I'm just someone who's just really enjoying their hobby of writing, and I'm sharing those stories with people who want to do it. Now, like I said, I'm very fortunate and just lucky to an extent that it's kind of picked up, and you know it's done all right, and it's really picked up the last few months. And who knows where it'll go? But I think it's really important just to kind of think perspective, you know, because if you're always wanting more and more and more, you'll never be happy with what you're doing. You'll never be settled.
Yes.
And the whole thing, we all write because we love writing, and that's the thing you can't lose focus on. The numbers can end up taking focus off what we actually love to do in the first place.
I needed to hear that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Craig.
So
Yeah.
you alluded to maybe one day not doing teaching. You said one day maybe I won't have to, and you just talked there about getting a publisher, getting not. If it happens, it happens. There's no end goal then. It's just you enjoying your hobby and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's always been like that. Like I said, I think I would always teach. I could never not envisage working with young people, and
nice.
you know, like I just, it's always been a passion, teaching. Like I've loved it. Like I love every day going to work. I've never had a bad day in work. I really always say that. Like you learn something every day, even from your crappy lessons. You come out and you learn something about yourself or what you're doing. So it's a great career. You know, I love it. You know, like you get older and you think, you know, it's nice to do different things. So if the book thing was allowing me to do, like, so for example, I've went down to 4 days a week working. That's not necessarily to do more book stuff. That's just a work-life balance thing, you know. But if I could go to like 3 work days working and 2 days in the books, or
Teach writing.
2 days
Maybe,
working,
right? You could
yeah, I would do that. But like if it doesn't happen, like it doesn't happen. Like I'm not working to that end, and I don't know. Like I've always been a pretty chilled person since I was a kid. You know, I'm pretty relaxed about everything. Like I always think, what's the worst that could happen to you? You know, and the worst thing that can happen to you is you're not here. And if that's not happening, or you're sick, or your kids are sick, and when those things are not happening, everything else is fine. You know, and there's nothing else to worry about. You didn't sell so many books a day. So what? You know, like it's not the end of the world. So I don't really have an end goal, and that's not to say I'm not ambitious. At the same time, like I said, if someone was to come along and say, look, we really enjoy this work, we would love to publish it or something, that's something I would talk about, you know. But if it never happens, I'm never going to worry about it, because I've had the time of my life doing this. Like I've meeting you guys, I've met lots of people at book clubs, I've met people online, people have enjoyed the books, people have written to me about how much the books have affected them. I could never have imagined that. So that's the win. If nothing else ever happens, there's been such a big win out of this, and I think that's the way I've always tried to view it.
I love that as a philosophy for life. It's really sort of a nice way to kind of go through life, sort of knowing that, you know, you can put the hard work in, you don't have to worry about whether it's going to happen or not, but if it does happen, you embrace that opportunity and you jump all in. And it's that sort of, if I'm going to do this, yeah, I'm in, and I'll enjoy it and I'll love it, but I'm not too worried if it doesn't, because I love it anyway, and that's, I think that's such a lovely attitude to have in life.
It's been a great thing for me, you know, because like my friend Dr. Doogie, who is a psychologist, who's a great guy, he's like the brain the size of Belgium, he's fantastic. But he said to me, before I started writing, he was saying to me, talking about like mental health and stuff, and you know, and like he said to me, like, what's the thing in your life, what's the activity in your life that you do that when you start doing it, and then when you stop doing it and you look at the clock, you think, where did that time go? Right? And he said, because that's the key to good mental health. Find something that fulfills you, not something that makes you money, not something that, you know, gives you happiness for a, you know, which is a brief emotion, something that really fulfills you. And you know when it fulfills you because you don't notice the time anymore. Time that he said, and you get it with your friends. There'll be people you meet in life who after 5 minutes you think, oh my God, this has felt like, you know, forever talk. And then you've got your friends who you meet for coffee and you go, oh my God, they're closing up now, because you're so fulfilled by that other person and you're so into that other person and what they're talking about. So he said that to me and I said, I don't have anything like that. I can't think what I do. I kind of waste my nights away playing computer games and stuff. So the writing's been great for me because that's my thing. You know, I can sit and start writing and then I go, oh my God, 3 hours has passed and I've had such a blast, you know, writing. So again, like I said, like they're the wins, you know, like it's been so good for my mental health, like it's been fantastic. So I certainly don't measure, and that'd be my message to people, I guess, a wee bit would be, everyone's different, everyone's got different goals. Some people's goal is to get published and make lots of sales and money, but for me, my goal was always just to enjoy it, find something that I like to do, and if nothing else happens, that's been the win for me, you know. And I'll take that as a win. But like I said, it's all perspective and it's all relative to what you're wanting out the game, I guess. And the other thing to say is to people, and you know, I suppose to everybody, is like, just remember, like this huge slice of this is just luck, you know. Like, and a huge slice of this is like, this is a business, you know, as well. Like, this is so difficult. It's such a big business. It's such a difficult thing to try and crack. And you know, you might have the greatest book, you know, and you're maybe not selling a lot, but it doesn't mean it's not a great book or it's not worthwhile your time writing it, because it's just marketing, it's just getting out there, and there's so much competition, so difficult. So all those things I always keep in mind and think, you know what, like, control what you can control. There's certain things you can't control, you know, and don't worry about them because you'll kill yourself with stress if you do. Just think about what you can control. Control your writing, you know, you can control your marketing a little bit, but they're the things to focus on, and then success may come after that.
I'm guessing, and I was going to ask you about this, but from everything you said, I guess the answer is no. You don't get writer's block, do you?
That was going to be my question.
I just guess a no, right?
No, not really.
What is
I mean, do you know why? I probably have never. I don't think I've ever. I think I've had it once when I've sat at a laptop, or twice, and but not really, because writing for me isn't really. You know, you see the typical image of writer's block. I think people are like sitting at a laptop going, oh, and they're trying to figure out what's happening next in their story. Like I never think about writing as when I'm at a laptop.
Yeah.
That's inputting.
Yes. So with you, it has to be fully formed. Yeah.
That's the input part. That's just the processing part. You know, like you have this manual part. The story and the writing's already been done somewhere else. Like I've done it walking going for a walk, or I've done it, you know, like lying in the bath or driving to work. I'm almost have all the dialogue in my head. I have where the scene's going to start, where it's going to end. So it's actually just the inputting part of it. So I suppose I probably have had writer's block, but not in the traditional sense of, like, there's been days where I went, I'm not really sure where this is going next, and maybe go for a walk and think about it. Still not really getting it. Maybe that's a wee bit of writer's block, but I've never had it like sitting at a laptop, because I only open a laptop when I'm like, yes, I know what's happening next.
That's a great point. I have heard someone describe it like that before, that there's actually no such thing as writer's block. It just means you haven't thought about the story enough.
Yes.
And as soon as you've thought about it, you can sit down. I have had it once. I went on sertraline as an SSRI, and I found that absolutely switched it off. But that's probably a little bit different. So, yeah, normally thinking about it, going for a shower, going for a walk, going for a pint. I do a lot of thinking at the pub, which I say to my wife, I'm like, hey, it's working time. It's working time. It's got to get done.
And actually, often I find that, like, I'm a big believer in that ideas will come to you rather than you looking for them. Because I think sometimes the more you search for it, the more you, don't know, you try and force an idea that's maybe not quite right. It's like, I've been asked before, I'm asking myself my own questions here. That's a bad
No, do it. That's what we want.
I've been asked before, do you write your ideas down, you know, when you've got them out, when you're out walking or blah, blah, blah. And I never do. I've never written an idea down. The only time I write anything down is if I'm at a laptop and something comes out in my head as I'm writing. I might sometimes put a wee note on the side to say, I'll remember and maybe come back to this. But I never do it because I always big belief in, see if it's a good idea, it will come back to me. And see if I never remember it, it wasn't good enough to stick, you know. So that's the way I've always operated, and it's got me this far. So I kind of stick by that. I know other people have got like journals of notes that they write down every time they have an idea, but I've always been a big believer in if it's a good idea, it will find its way back to me at some point.
Yep, I'm of that ilk.
Well, I find that when I have a good idea, or my idea of a good idea, they attack me. I find myself. So I remember standing in my apartment and I was about to text Louis because I had a breakthrough and I was like, I think I know what I'm going to do. And I was like, no, that's crazy. And then to me again, I was like, no, you have to do it. And I'm just standing in my kitchen having an argument with myself. Like, I can't put that in my book. I got to no, don't text him that. He'll tell you to do it. And then he did. And that's how I ended my book. And I like it. But I find if I'm trying to force it, it's not, if I, like, exactly like you said, it's like trying to remember a dream, right? You're like grasping.
That's
at
a really
that.
good way.
Like,
Yeah, that's a lovely way of describing it. That's exactly it.
And if you have to fight that hard to remember it, it's not the thing. It will, for me, it will wake me out of sleep. It will get me in the middle of another conversation. Like, I'll be in the middle of a word, be like, oh, hold on, I got it.
The only time I've ever done it was when I had my idea for my standalone book, which is called 49 Things to Do with Dad Before He Dies. And the only time I've ever done anything like that was I was in line in bed, and I've got this really annoying habit for a long time, unfortunately, which I go to sleep, but it's like, I'll go to sleep and I'll fall asleep fine, but I'll wake up like half an hour later and it's really annoying because it's almost like a power nap, you know, and you feel like getting back to sleep a second time's trickier. Anyway, this happened to me one night, and I won't tell the full story because we won't have time, but anyway, and I had the idea, and I woke up, I didn't dream that idea, but I woke up and I was like, this thing had happened to me during the day, and I was like, oh, I've got an idea. And I was so terrified. That was the only time ever, because I was like, I had the last chapter written in my head, and I was like so terrified of losing it because I was like sleepy and dreamy, and it's the only time I ever have opened my phone and went, I can't lose this. Like, I'm going to write this book one day, and I quickly noted down the last few lines of the chapter of the last page. I wrote them down, and they're literally as you read them now. And I had the title of the book, and wrote the title down, and I went back to sleep. And I came back to it about 2 months later, and I always remember thinking, I want to write that book, and I don't want to forget that. So that's the only time I've ever done it. The rest of the time, I always just let my ideas come back to me, you know.
That's great. Normally when that happens to me, I wake up again and the next morning I look at my notes and I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Same.
That's funny.
Do you
Your titles are so good, by the way. It's so good. 49 things to do before you... I've completely botched it, but
No, it's all right.
your title for the...
49 Things to Do with Dad Before He Dies, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, your title was so good I can't say it.
I know I had someone emailed me just yesterday to say, Wednesday to say, oh, I'm loving the book. Like, I'm 3/4 way through it, and I'm absolutely loving it. But like, please, you've got to change the title because, like, you know, like I had a relationship with my dad that wasn't so good, and blah blah blah, and it might put people off. And I was like, just like read the rest of the book, and then email me at the end. And you know, and then we'll talk titles after that, you know, because I was like, it's the one thing I can't change about that book. I love the title, but it's interesting because quite a few people have said to me, "Oh, it sounds depressing," it sounds like, and I'm like, well, you know what, it's not. It's like lovely, and it's a really nice uplifting book. But I like the title, so that's the main thing, you know.
Nice. Yeah, you got to stick by it. Do you pay for editors? Do you do that yourself? How does that work? More practical stuff.
Yeah, just do it all myself. Yeah, I've got
This fucking guy.
Yeah,
Come on.
I have got I was very lucky. So, like I said, I had no clue what I was doing at the start. I mean, like I always say, people say, how do you do it? And I'm like, I can't tell you how to do it, but I can tell you what not to do. Like, I've been an expert on what not to do. And if I ever hold a conference on what not to do, I am happy to come and be a guest speaker at that, because I could take up a full day.
It's a great idea for a conference.
Yeah, what not to do. Honestly, it's much better advice than what to do. What not to do. So
Should we start that? Should we start that?
Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah.
What not to do. So I released my book anyway. An American author had I don't know, to this day I have no idea how she came across it, but somebody in America emailed me and said, or was Facebook, sorry, in contact, said, oh, like, love this book and I'm going to recommend it to my friends. She said, like, it's all over the place with like errors and things like that. And I hadn't really thought about it. Do you know, I hadn't really, that's how naive I was. I hadn't even thought about that. Like, I'd done a few proofreads and went, yeah, great. I hadn't really thought about just like when I'm thinking back now, I'm like, God, what was I thinking? Anyway, so she said to me, she said, I'm an author, she said, but I actually do a wee bit of editing as well. She said, and I love it. I'll do it for you. And I said, look, I can't afford to pay anything. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm genuinely don't have money to send you. No, I'm going to do it completely for free, she said. So I was really lucky. So she sent me back, and so we sent me back my error list. I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, this is worse than a kid in my class. So I fixed it all like that night, re-uploaded it to Amazon, and that was fine. And she's going to help me with each book. Obviously, it's never. The reality is, unless you pay, I suppose, for a real proper professional editor, it's probably never going to be absolutely like perfect. The formatting and things like that, but. For me, it's been alright, but I've never paid a story editor or a design person or anything like that. No, I've just always done it myself. Like I say, like I suppose there's more evidence of the fact I do just treat it as a hobby. I really don't treat it as like a professional thing. You know, maybe I should a bit more. But
you say that, but your margins are probably insane compared to every other indie author out there because of it, which is
yeah. So I've got so I spend like. Just now I've got like a kind of £20 a day advert running, and that's it. You know, I don't have anything else. So it's quite good because you get to keep most of what you earn. You know, so it's been like kind of just, as I said, really pushed on myself with it. I think a copy editor would be good, you know. Maybe need to think about that for maybe future work. But a story editor wouldn't be for me, you know. Like I say, it's a hobby. It's my story. It's how I want to tell it, and I do appreciate it's only advice you get. But I don't know. I would just think I'd be paying for something I wouldn't listen to.
So you don't do like beta readers or ARC readers or any of that? No.
No. I mean, I've got like a couple of people who will like who'll give like rough PDF copies to and say like, what do you think, you know, type thing. And they usually like, so Linda, who's lovely in America, she always gets a copy first, and she'll go through and give me some feedback on for like some of the grammar and bits and pieces like that, and she started to kind of go a wee bit in the story, like just very small notes, but not a lot. That's all I need. But and like I say at the end of the day, like, I'm a huge believer, not just in writing, but just in life in general. Like, trust your instincts. I think we're almost taught sometimes to kind of ignore our instincts, and I don't know. I think our instincts serve us pretty well most of the time. That's not to say that a second pair of eyes isn't good, and I think it is. But like you were laughing a lot about crying at your own stories, right? So like I always have written my books for me. I've never written them with anyone else in mind. I've never written thinking about what somebody else might find funny, what somebody else might find. I just write down what I think's funny, what I think's emotional, what I think might be a theme that might connect with me. You know, like what I feel. So when I'm laughing or if I'm, you know, crying or whatever else, I'm just like, right, okay, well, if I feel that, then I'm hoping that connection will, you know, it's just up to the quality of the writing at that point to make sure somebody else feels it. But story-wise, it's my story, it's the one I want to tell, and like I said, if I was doing it professionally a bit, I would maybe pay for all that stuff, but, you know, I don't really see the need for it, to be honest with you.
Well, and I think it's I absolutely love that approach. It's so you're just brimming with confidence, and I'm gonna borrow a lot of that from you after this. But you know, I'm thinking about your teaching, and I remember when I was in school, a teacher really sort of changed my approach to things when she said, "Listen, if you have a question, it's likely that even if no one else is raising their hand, they have the same question. So don't be afraid to just ask the thing, say what you want to say." And I think that you can have that same approach with writing, because if you're having a feeling, if you're having an emotional reaction to something, somebody else out there is having that same emotional reaction. And one of the things that we've discussed a few times on the pod is this idea of not trying to please everyone, not trying to be too to have too much like mass appeal, because the more you censor yourself or the more you try and tone down what you're saying or make it less niche or make it less weird or make it less specific, you're kind of taking the essence of you out of it.
Yeah.
And there are people out there who want to see what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And you know, as to professionals, I was having a laugh to myself last night because I've had a few different people, paid a couple different people to take a pass through my book that's close to finished. And the last editor went through and took out a whole bunch of commas. And I was like, oh, I kind of like those commas because in my head they're speaking and that's where I wanted them to pause in their speech. But all right, like, you're the expert, that's grammatically correct. The last editor who came through, she put every single one of those commas back in. And I was like, you know, there's an art to this. And so that goes, I think, just to trusting your instincts, because there is no one's coming to grade this paper, right? There's going to be people who are leaving reviews. Okay, fine. I made Terry promise my husband that he would never let me read my reviews last night. I was like, we're staying away from those.
You better handle it.
I shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, I think if you're confident in your story and you know what you want to say, you don't need to go pay a bunch of people for their opinions, because you know what it is, and that follow your gut. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you made a really good point about, like, the more you try and appeal to the masses, the less people you actually appeal to. And I think that's true, because there's no such thing as the mass, you know. Like, the reality is we're a bunch of individuals with all different experiences, and my story or stories aren't for everyone, and that's it. You know, that they're not meant to be for everyone. There'll be people who, and there have been people who read it who, you know, hate it and don't relate to it at all, and there's lots of people who it does. And like I say, like, you, for me, write for yourself, and then like if it'll find someone, and some books will be, it'll be small, it will be niche, and that's it. Some books will have slightly wider appeal depending on what you're talking about. I suppose my books are kind of like, I always like thinking I'm having some universal themes, even though they're very personal. I like to think that, you know, in different contexts we've all felt guilt or grief, or, you know, in all different contexts. I mean, I really, when it always comes back to me is I was at a book club, a library book club, and there's more to this story, but I'll shorten it. There was an elderly lady came up to me at the end, and now the book's about a guy in his 40s online dating to begin with, and then it moves into something else. But anyway, I said, during it, she said, what do you think it's about? Somebody said to me, and I said, I think it's about losing your identity. I think that's ultimately what it's about, and someone trying to cling on to hope that they can somehow scramble back to that. So in the book, he's out his marriage, and his marriage defined who he was, and suddenly he's out his marriage at a time that he didn't expect to be in, and who is he now? So at the end, she said, I guess something like 84, she said, right? And she said, I've never identified more than I have with the character. And I'm thinking, you know, women in their 80s, you know, like guy in his 40s, like this isn't computing. And she says to me, I said, about 3 years ago, she said, I lost my husband. We'd been together since we were at school, about 14 years of age. Wow. And he died in his sleep. And she said, my entire life experience, who I was so wrapped up in who he was that the idea of not being us means I don't know who I am anymore on my own. Like, I don't have an identity. And I remember driving home that night thinking, I never wrote that book for her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I never wrote the book for an 84-year-old woman who'd lost her husband. I never wrote that for her. But the idea of someone who's lost a wee bit of who they are and is wondering, what do I do now?
It's universal.
It's universal, isn't it? So you can find it in different situations. So I guess that's maybe sometimes where you can have broader appeal. But certainly, I don't think you can write for the masses. I don't think you can do that. I think you've got to write what's meaningful for you.
Love it. That's such. I mean,
that's
like
the beautiful thing about art.
Oh,
sorry. I was just saying that's the beautiful thing about art, that you essentially you interpret it in your own way, in your own context, and you receive what someone else puts it out within your own context, and what it means to you is different to the person who wrote it. And I think it's a good lesson for life, because when we say something to someone else, they may interpret our words in a very different way, and they may either like them or they may not like them. And sometimes we need to sort of understand that once they leave our mouths or our pens or our typing or whatever, then we no longer control them, and we're no longer in control of them. And that's a beautiful way that it happened. And yeah, I'm really glad that you had that experience.
And it's a really good thing to remember about reviews as well, because reviews can really can really, you know, until you've built up a bit of resilience and understanding of it, they can hurt, you know, when people kind of slate you and things. But you've got to remember, like you say, Ander, like absolutely, art is for the consumer. You know, it's not for the person who's created it to tell you its meaning. It's the consumer who'll decide what it means and interpret it. You know, I'm a great film fan, and you know, there's that thing of like, there is no such thing as a great film, really. It's only what you bring to it. You know, what you bring to the film will be what you take away from it. And you know, and I'm a big believer in that. And I think that's the same with books. And I think that's the same with art, that you're you know, paintings, whatever else. It's what you're going to bring to the party. It's what you're then going to take away from it. And we're all different in that respect. So when you get a negative review, and they do happen to us all, it just wasn't for that person. You know, like it just wasn't for them. That's okay, but that takes a while to get used to. But initially you do think, oh, I'm the worst writer ever, you know, and then you realise, you just remember, like, everyone's different. There's a great Mark Kermode, you know, the film critic. Yeah. He always says, it always makes me laugh. He always says, there is only one review of art, whether it's films, TV, anything. There is only one review that you could ever give, really, and that is, it's pretty good if you like that sort of thing. And it always makes me laugh, because it's so true. You know, if you like it, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, if you don't like it, you won't like it. So,
you actually just unlocked something for me, Craig, because, and I, you know, we'll see how many people in our audience this appeals to, but in the recreational drug space, we talk a lot about set and setting, and that, you know, there is no such thing as a good drug or a bad drug. It's what you bring to that place, like where you are when you're taking it, how much food is in your stomach, what kind of negative thoughts are in your head. And I'm sort of thinking about people reading as tripping, right? And you're going to have a good trip or a bad trip depending on what you bring to that situation and where you are when you're ingesting that art. Because really, we're all just helping people hallucinate, right? I wrote a bunch of things. I want you to look at those words and form thoughts in your head, right? We're all just kind of tripping together. So I think
are the recreational drugs in the room with us right now, MJ? Is that...
prescription in the room right now,
Professional
recreational
lawyer, by the way.
after this. Well, I'm in the great state of Maine where it is very legal, so thank you.
Mr. Craig, we were asked,
Yes.
we have a lady called Elise Anderson in our Book Juice group, and she is more Scottish than you, very Scottish, to the point where it's hard to understand her. She asked the question, do you write in your mother tongue?
I have a couple of characters who talk in what I would say is Glaswegian.
One sec. Louis, do you need to take cover?
No, it's all of us. Yeah. There's a severe risk of wildfires in the UK.
Oh dear.
Yeah, because it's fucking well hot. Like, I could have sent that. Jesus.
I don't think I got. Yeah, we don't get that in Scotland because it's not hot at all.
Can you ask that question again?
Do you
What?
write in your mother tongue?
So
And then the wildfire started. Jesus.
Mother
Sorry.
tongue. A couple of in my trilogy, a couple of characters talk. I write them as Glaswegian dialogue because they're very authentic Glaswegian working class, and you couldn't really do them justice by giving them, the Queen's English. You've obviously got to be. I'm mindful that not everyone speaks like that in the book because, you've got to make it accessible still. But it's nice because I've had quite a lot of people say how much they've enjoyed, kind of reading the Glasgow slang and things like that. So I write a little bit of that. A couple of characters in my trilogy talk like that a bit, but everyone else I try and give the more Queen's English to, because I think if they were all talking like those two characters, I think some people who went from Scotland would they come out.
It'd be a slog.
Yeah.
I tried to read. I tried to read Train Spotting, and I couldn't do it. I was
I was just going to use that as an example. Like the first page of Train Spotting's heavy stuff.
real heavy. I was like,
And I'm Scottish, but that's Edinburgh, and I find Train Spotting difficult.
that was difficult.
Yeah.
So this is about an hour. So let's, I would say, wrap up now. I'm going to ask you for your one thing that you've distilled down into concentrate, and we'll make squash, and then we'll make a juice drink out as rubbish. But we'll get that from you, and then we'll do the outro, and then I mean, this has been amazing. So thank you so much, and I'm sort of in awe, and sort of kind of reinforced to think, because I've been thinking along the same lines if I would like to drop all the extraneous things that I do and pay for, because I want to just do the work. I want to do my work, put my story out, and move on. So it's lovely to hear that you sort of have that mindset, which is good.
Yeah.
So over to you, Craig. You can tell us also at the end where we find your books, what you're working on next, whatever you want. But give us your one thing that you've distilled down.
As in terms of things I've
Anything.
learned or
Publishing,
anything.
promoting, working, finishing, writing a book, balancing it all, whatever you want.
Yeah, what do you want the book juice community to know?
I want them to know, and I suppose I've touched on this already, because I don't feel in the position to give, we're all just each other's peers, so I really don't feel in the position to try and tell someone how to write their book or anything like that, or even promote it. But what I would say is that, stay true to what you want to write about, stay true to your story, and remember that not everyone can sell lots of books, and that's just the reality of it. That's the reality of it. Not everyone's going to sell tens of thousands of books. That's just what this book you've got might not necessarily be the one that does it.
Yeah.
That does not mean that you've not written an absolutely fantastic book, because it's what I've learned. And I still see myself as very much an outsider. I don't know much about this business, but what I've learned is that this is a business. This is a business that you're operating in, and it's a pretty challenging one to get out there, because I was thinking about, if you want to go shopping in your supermarket, you've got 5 supermarkets to pick from. If a reader's trying to buy a book, you've got hundreds of thousands of choices, and it's difficult. It's a business. I've been in the wrong end of that. People treat you because they want to make money out of it. So what I would say is, please never let yourself feel dispirited or disheartened because you're maybe not that particular week or month or day or whatever selling what you would want to sell. You've written a great story. It took me 18 months to really take off. Take off comparatively, maybe in indie world, but please, that's what I would say to remember, because it can feel like I've put all this work into this book and I can't get it out there, because somebody out there will read it and somebody will love it, And that's kind of really what you're aiming for in the first instance, wasn't it? That somebody would enjoy your work, and don't sweat too much about the other stuff, because it's not about you. It's just a really tough business, and I should say, you guys what you do to support each other is wonderful, and really amazing, because it can be a very lonely experience, can't it? When you're on there trying to and the big people who've made it, what I've found, really, there's not that many people who don't want to help you up. It's a lot about helping each other, and I think you guys are really great at that. So I guess that's maybe, I don't want it to sound pessimistic, because it's not. I want that to be actually to make people feel optimistic, to say, just try and think about, when you're writing your book, you're thinking you're writing it because you want somebody out there to read it and love it, and someone will. Your hope is that lots of people will do that, but just because it's not happening just now doesn't mean it won't happen. And it might not be this book. Go and write another one. Go and get on to the next one, write the next book, and if that doesn't do it, write the next one, and just keep plugging it, because if you love it, keep doing it, and never let the fact that you're not selling that particular book stop you doing what you love. That's really important.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Well said.
Love it.
Do you want to tell us quickly where we can find all your stuff and what you work on?
Yeah, just Amazon, so you can find my first book's called Unhinged. You can find that on Amazon, and then it would link you to the sequels, Fate Fell Short and Not Midnight Yet. That's a trilogy following Alfie Anderson through the trials and tribulations of trying to move on. The tagline for the Unhinged is, "Who said moving on was easy?" So it kind of follows that. And then a standalone book called 49 Things to Do with Dad Before He Dies. And this kind of, if I could just say this, just to try and prove my point, I sell like, I'm lucky if I sell 40 copies of that a month, 50 copies a month. It's going up now because I'm getting a bit of kickback from the trilogy, and I would do maybe 30 to 40,000, maybe sometimes 50,000 page reads, right? So all those stats really are driven by the trilogy. So if I just had 49 Things to do with Dad Before He Dies, I'd be thinking, why is this not selling? This isn't that good. That's my best book. That's the book I love the most. It's just not an easy sell, and it's just not one that's necessarily caught fire yet. But I'm not disheartened by that at all. I love that book, and the amount of people who review, like, I've got a top rated badge just now on Amazon for it because it's got such good reviews. That's everything to me. So like, that kind of backs up my point of, I'd never sit and worry about 49 Things, what's not selling. I love that book. I'm so glad I wrote it. It's my favourite book of the four, and it sells pennies compared to the others, but it doesn't mean I don't love it. I love it like it's my own child. It's my favourite book, and so that's I suppose that's trying to kind of back up my point of never sweat the sales too much. If it's going to happen, it'll happen for you. But the key thing is you love your work and the work you produced, and you're proud of it, and that's the most important part.
Love that. Thank you so much. I feel like I have to call you Mr. Scoular.
Thank you so much.
You're a teacher, but Mr. Craig Scoular, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was terrific. Thanks, Craig.
And theme.
This has been another episode of Book Juice. If you've made it this far, thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, download, tell all your friends, and play on repeat while you sleep. My name is MJ Perkins, and I decided to add an end credit just to see who's listening all the way until the end. Hey guys, see you in the group chat. Oh, and if you want to join the group chat, just DM me on Instagram at MJ Perkins Books. Bye!